Hey guys, it's CS Joseph with csjoseph.life doing the next video for the 16 Personalities series according to Jungian Analytical Psychology. Tonight's video is the second to last of this series. It is also probably the third most commonly asked for of all the types that I've been getting in terms of the requests. But sorry, I'm doing them in order, so that's what I gotta do, right? Sorry, not sorry. Anyway, the INTP, also known as the Introverted Intuitive Thinking Perceiving type, it is behind the scenes, it is an intellectual, and is also known as the engineer. It is informative, responding, and control. One of my most favorite types because I am an NTP as well. So let's dive in, shall we? Alright, the INTP. I love INTPs, and for some reason so does everybody else. Although, of course, it is typically the type that is derided for being the type that lives in the mother's basement, playing video games and getting fat and not actually doing anything with themselves, which is kind of usually typical. They're also the typical archetype where you have the nerd who has the pocket protector and you know, that everyone makes fun of, especially like Screech on Saved by the Bell or all those other crazy shows I used to grow up with when they'd make these crazy dumb caricatures of nerds as we know it. But I guess the INTP would be colloquially referred to as the nerd type, even though they're the engineer type. But regardless, they're bloody brilliant and they kind of rule the world in a lot of ways, so best to not like mess with them that much anymore, if you know what I mean. But why are they brilliant? TI hero. Similar to the ISTP, INTPs have TI hero, which means they have this insanely amazing mastery of logic. I mean, I'll be honest, and as much as I would think that as much as I would like to think that I'm the smartest person on the planet, these guys beat me every time. In the same way, ISTPs beat me every time because TI Hero's logic it's fantastic when compared to TI Parent. Although TI Parent is pretty nasty, TI Hero just takes the cake with its absolute dominance of anything logic, and it's fantastic. The problem is, though, is that because they're TI Hero, an INTP can come off as some arrogant prick. To the point where they're just like, well, I always have to be right in absolutely everything, just like ISTPs do, right? Well, the problem is that they get so right, you're wrong, you know? They're really right, but you've also just alienated everybody in the room, so we're just going to go over here. But of course, the INTP's like, shrugs, and goes off into their own little corner, pulls out their phone, and starts playing puzzle games on their phone as if they didn't care to begin with anyway, which, quite frankly, they really don't. That comes from the fact that INTPs can be like insanely indifferent to everything. They can just turn on their apathy because they can be very apathetic, and then all of a sudden nothing means anything to them at all. And it's kind of a defense mechanism that they do, but it's also because unless something actually interests their SI child, which is right here, if it's an experience they want to have, I mean they'll not be apathetic, but if it's an experience they don't want to have, or if they're just being bitter in response with their ESFJ subconscious, because they can get bitter, the INTP will just decide to not care. And because they're just not caring, they're going off in their own little world. Hey, I can have fun by myself. Screw you. I don't need you. So, bye-bye. And that's just kind of how they go about doing that. I mean, in the same way that ISTPs can put people in the stupid zone or the you are annoying zone, INTPs can do that the same because they have TE nemesis. Remember, the nemesis function as the fifth function is where a person's worry exists. So the INTP walks around believing that everyone else around them is stupid. Like, they are really worried. They are legitimately worried that other people in the world are stupid and that they're the only smart human being. Why is that? Well, it's because they have TI Hero, and because they're so intelligent with TI Hero for themselves, they have a really hard time believing that other people are as smart as they are, and they just walk around that way. And that's why a lot of TI users who don't have TI Hero end up feeling like they're idiots when around TI Heroes like INTPs. I mean, ISTPs, it's the same way, right? But there's not much you can do about that. Oh, that guy makes me feel stupid, which is a typical response of someone who just had an argument with an INTP, or if the INTP was pointing out a flaw in whatever they were dealing with, because the INTP is just immediately aware of those flaws and can see into the possibilities of that person's future as they're going through that action and can anticipate what's going to happen before it does, because they have extrovert intuition parent. It's like, oh, I see what you're doing over there, and or I see what you're about to do. I don't think, because it's not expert sensing when they're trying to see what someone's already doing. It's expert intuition. It's what a person's about to do, right? Because the INTPs already had experience with that person, so that they're able to use their any parent prescience to start anticipating the behaviors of other people around them, and it makes and basically to everybody to an INTP, everyone around them is predictable, and they can predict behavior like all the time. And the more they can predict behavior by somebody, the more they get bored with that person, and that just makes them even more apathetic and more indifferent to that person anyway. So it's kind of like, huh. So INTPs, after a while, they start looking for novelty. They really do, because they want to have new experiences, different tastes, different things. But they also like to have, the original, which is, the same experience over and over and over again. That includes... The SI child tells like the same stories over and over and over. SI inferior does it too, but SI child and INTP, it's like really bad. I had this coworker, he was an INTP, and he'd tell the same stories about him in the Air Force over and over and over and over. For over a period of 3 years, I would listen to the same stories of him in the Air Force. And I like the stories, but after a while, it's like, dude, that's probably your 15th, 16th time you've mentioned that to me. Probably not. Why do INTPs do this? Well, it's their XE trickster. They're not aware of the experiences other people have or are getting. They're not aware that someone else might have already heard the story that they were telling with their SI child storytelling, because INTPs love to storytell. They're all about storytelling, sharing from their experience, SI child. But with the situation with the SE trickster, they're not even, so when they're talking to somebody, it doesn't even occur to them that person may have already heard that story, so they just keep rambling on that story, and then that person who's already heard it a million times starts to feel alienated, because it's like, why do you not care about me or think of me enough to remember that I've already heard this story? And then they get butthurt about it, and it's just kind of like, okay, yeah, whatever, which then forces the INTP to go even more indifferent in that social situation, and then they just withdraw, and it's just like, well, what the hell, you know what I mean? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy as far as INTP social relationships go. There's not much you can do about that. Actually, there is, and I'll tell you how in a minute. So extrovert intuition parent. So TI hero, master of logic, extrovert intuition parent. They can see into the futures of other people. They can look into people's fates. They have a strong mastery of metaphysics. That's how the theory of relativity came, is because extrovert intuition parent and TI hero. Let's be honest. It also it knows what people want, what they're about to do, what their desires are. It can measure the level of willpower in fellow human beings, so they can see how desirous another human being is. And because they're kind of able to see into the fates of other people, they can kind of say things to those people to kind of prevent problems and challenges for that person, or to actually cause problems and challenges for that person. It depends whether or not the INTP respects them, or actually likes them, or actually gives a damn about them. But more on that in a minute. That's basically how extrovert intuition parent works. However, because it's a parent function, it's an auxiliary function, similar to how the inferior function is auxiliary, and the critic, and then obviously the demon. Because it's an auxiliary function, they can get very pessimistic. So they're usually using their extrovert intuition parent in a negative way before they use it in a positive way. Not that that's a bad thing, because the negativity, like, it comes with the warning. Warning, there is a truck that's about to hit you. You might want to move. Ah, no, man, I got it. Smash. And it's like, okay, I told you so. INTPs walk around living in I told you so land all the time. Which, further alienates them from people, and then they just get indifferent and don't want to have to deal with them anymore. It's like, okay, well, if you're not going to listen to me, I'm not going to help you anymore. They constantly have that point of view, and then that just further feeds into their indifference. So, because why? Well, T.I. Hero knows it's really intelligent, and it's like, I can tell you the truth, but if you're not going to listen to the truth, why bother? Why bother doing anything for you? You know, that's not even fair. Oh, but let's talk about fairness. Extroverted feeling, inferior and aspirational. The inferior function is where a person's aspirations exist. It's also where their fears and insecurity exists. So INTPs are very afraid of how other people feel, in the same way ISTPs are afraid of how other people feel. INTPs can be motivated by guilt. They can be manipulated with guilt, and if it's insincerely manipulated, well, they'll go demon mode. But if it is sincere, they'll feel guilty, and then they'll take responsibility for their actions, and they will apologize for it. In fact, that just happened this week. Actually happened yesterday. A friend of mine received an apology from an INTP because the previous night the INTP went off on him. And then the INTP felt guilty about going off on him and then wrote him an apology the next day. And I told my friend that that's exactly what would happen. And then all of a sudden he sends me a message the following day saying, hey, you called it. That's exactly what happened. He apologized to me. And I'm like, told you. But, you know, people tell me I don't even know people. So, yeah, whatever. I mean, don't pay attention to the expert in the room. Let's not. Okay. So anyway, they're very insecure about how other people feel. And because of that, because FE is in the fourth function, they really do actually want to care. You have to understand that INTPs are not like these soulless machines that they are constantly accused of. NFJs and FJs basically accuse INTPs all the time of being soulless people, of being uncaring. It's usually because of their apathy and because of their indifference. And it's also because of FI demon, because INTPs don't care how they feel. Like, in the same way ISTPs don't care how they feel. Because to them, it's not about how they feel. It's about what's true and what's false. But you're a machine. You don't have feelings. You know, it's like you don't even care about me. And it's like, no, actually, I really do care about you. I do all this stuff for you, and I'm loyal to you. But you obviously don't appreciate it, so... I mean, if I'm going to do the time, I may as well do the crime. INTPs are all about that. It's SI child, FE inferior, becoming the ESFJ subconscious. They're very justice-oriented because an INTP, they really, really want to become this caregiver, this ESFJ subconscious. They're all about caring for other people, caring for the family. They do it from the sense of duty, sense of honor, sense of loyalty to their family, to their community, to their job, to whatever they're doing, whatever they represent. They're all about being loyal and caregiving and supportive in any way they possibly can. And that's actually why they criticize people a lot with their TI hero, because they're trying to support that person. It's like, no, you are having a bad life right now because you're making the wrong decisions. So I'm going to criticize you right now with my TI hero so you can see the error of your ways so that you'll stop making those bad decisions and have a better life. Yeah, well, the problem is we live in first world society where people prefer ignorance instead of, like, wisdom. That's the problem. I mean, INTPs are extremely aware of this, and they're a very rare type, like less than 3% of the population, I believe. Because they're so rare, and they could see the problem, but no one's willing to listen to them. It's why they're so indifferent, because why bother warning someone that something's going to happen? We live in a day and age where people would rather be massaged or brought in to, wisdom in a very soft and cushy and happy way. And that's not actually how wisdom works, guys. Wisdom is like fire. It's truth. You gotta get burned in order to be able to get closer to the truth. You have to be willing to suffer for it, right? And INTPs know that with their TI hero. So they're burning other people, breathing fire on them with their TI hero. I'm going to tell the truth and burn you away, burn those lies away so you can have wisdom. But the people are like, oh no, it's too hot, it's too hot. And then they run away from the INTP and complain they're being alienated. When the INTP is just trying to be supportive and help them and give them wisdom, give them truth. But no, it's too hot, I have to run away. You know, I'm too much of a pussy, I can't take it. And it's like, so the INTP's like, well, forget you, I'm moving on with my life. You know, it's just kind of it's so ridiculous. I can empathize with the INTP because I don't have FI because I have FI trickster, so I'm not sympathizing here. I'm empathizing because I have FE child. Anyway, I can empathize with the INTP because people don't listen. They don't listen to me. I'm an NTP as well. I'm trying to tell them the truth, you know, and you think they're going to listen to the truth of the INTP? Probably not. They're just going to look at the INTP as like there's some freaking crazy person, like, which is normal for NTPs. We're the ones wrong. We're the ones crazy, apparently, and the entire world is okay. And we're, you know, but instead, I guess we're autistic, right? Or I guess we have Asperger's, right? And then we just get these labels, and it's like, okay, yeah, no, actually, the rest of the world is screwed up. Sorry. Anyway, so that's all about FE Inferior. FE Inferior it really wants to support others. It wants to make people feel good. Do not take the INTP's opportunity to make other people feel good or their opportunity to contribute to other people. If you do that, then they'll hate you for it, and they'll go FI demon on you, and we'll explain that in a minute. So the TE nemesis, we talked about that a bit. They just walk around worried that everyone else around them is stupid. And they end up, INTPs, in anything that they're like interested in, anything that they're focused in, or actually anything that they're specialized in, we'll go in that way, because ISTPs, they're all about focus, but it leads them to being jacks of all trades, masters of none, until they really, really, really focus. But an INTP is really into specializing. They want to specialize. They know they're brilliant. They can know that they can figure anything out if they really put their minds to it. But it's all about that SI child. It's like, okay, well, should I do that right now? Is it important? Is it really going to help people, FE Inferior? Is it my duty? Is it my obligation to learn this and master this right now? Yes or no? And if they're like, yes, okay, it is my obligation. Okay, this is my calling. I'm going to specialize in this, and I'm going to become an expert. Well, if everyone else around them is being stupid, they're going to correct, and they're trying to be in that same field. The INTP is going to correct them, like immediately, or the INTP is just going to do it themselves and ignore those people and not ask them for help because they're like, that guy's too stupid to know how to do this right anyway. So I'm just going to ignore them and move on and do it myself. Screw these people. And that's kind of how the INTP works, which further adds into the indifference, because it's like, okay, well, if everyone's stupid around me, why should I engage with them or have anything to do with them? Why should I not be indifferent? Explain that to me, please. But there's a way to get around the indifference, and I'll show you. Now, NI critic. NI critic is a serious problem for the INTP. The INTP gets so comfortable with SI child and where they go. It's similar to how ISTJs work, that they can get super lazy and they can get stuck in a rut. But it's because the SI child just has to be around familiar territory at all times, because the unfamiliar territory with the SE trickster is just not even real to them. And because of that, they don't want to take the risk with their NI critic to want something. It's not that they're afraid of wanting the wrong thing. It's just that they see everybody else in the world being so irresponsible with what they want and making horrible decisions that the INTP's choosing to not make any decision so that they are not at risk of having a bad experience because they've made a wrong decision. You know, that's kind of how their functions are going in their heads right now. You know what I mean? So it's like, well, I don't want to take the risk, so I'm just not going to make a decision, you know, because I don't want to want the wrong thing, so I'm just going to not want anything, is kind of how they do it, right? Well, I mean, let's talk about my coworker again, my former INTP coworker. He was married to this insanely abusive Chinese woman who literally beat him, you know, and their children on a regular basis, and was insanely disrespectful. And he was with her for, let's see, 20 years? How do you do that? Well, that's what they do. NI critic gets them stuck because they're so critical over what they want that they have to know for a fact that it is something they want. And they are even willing to endure abuse, physical abuse, before the INTP is willing to figure that out. Come on, wake up. Seriously, don't do that, INTPs. It's really annoying. You're really brilliant, but you're also kind of dumb in this way. You know, like, You're dumb in the area of familiarity. You guys need to seriously get out of familiar zone sometimes, because that's the only way you're going to freaking grow. Otherwise, you're going to stagnate and be stuck, much to the detriment of everybody else in your family. And it's like, great. That's really supportive of the world, guys. That's really supportive. You're going to be supporting people that are subconscious if you're actually not willing to make decisions for change because you need to be in your comfort zone. Wow. That's respectable. Come on, guys, wake up. Seriously. We need INTPs. INTPs not only... I mean, if an ENTP is there for innovation, but the INTP is there to take that innovation and not only can they innovate, but they can implement it. They have the ability to implement it even further. They're not so focused on just the innovation, but they have the ability to find what they need and then to actually do it themselves and put it into practice. That's amazing. They're super mega powerful, and they do that, and then it shows in areas of technology, engineering, healthcare. It doesn't matter. Anything that the INTP specializes in, they can be a master of it very quickly. And they don't even have to have access to their tools or their computers or anything because they have it all committed to memory because it's stored in their SI child. And they can instantly bring anything up like that and solve a problem on the fly. Immediately. And they can usually see those problems coming. And they're usually already thinking about those problems constantly. They're never not thinking because of TI Hero. So, anti-critic is a major problem with them. So what you do to solve that problem is that you criticize them. You criticize them for not wanting anything. And you give them options of what they can want. But you can't tell an INTP that this other person had success if you do this thing. Because they're like, well, I don't care. I'm different, anyone could experience anything, but that's not what I'm experiencing. So what you do is you force it on the INTP. You literally force them out of their comfort zone. That's the best way to make an INTP change. I recommend it often. And so that's why parents, if you have an INTP living in your basement playing video games all day long and getting fat, kick them out of the house as soon as possible, please. That would do society a favor. It would do them a favor too. They'll thank you later, maybe in 10 years after they're super bitter about it, and then all of a sudden they realize there's this thing called manhood and they should probably grow up, and then after they do, they realize that they should thank you for kicking them out of the house. That'd be nice. So just remember, anti-critic is what holds them back, and INTPs are similar to ESTPs and INFJs and INFPs and ISTJs. They are very weak to failure to launch syndrome, and you do not want your INTP to have failure to launch syndrome. You got to get them out of the house as soon as possible, and as you're raising them, make sure that they understand what the expectation is, that they have no choice. Give them a literal hard date. You have until this date to get out. Tell them when they're 14 or 15. Don't forget, on August 4th, 2024, you're out of the house. And you will have an eviction notice if you're not out. Something like that. Because it forces the SI child to have duty and to know that it's their responsibility. You have to saddle the INTP with responsibility. Another way to motivate them is with TI Hero. They usually get super mega competitive, and all you have to do is just pit them against somebody else and say to the INTP that other person is smarter than them, because their TE nemesis can't believe that someone else is smarter than them. So TI Hero kicks in, and then they just start making a competition, and all of a sudden the INTP is being productive, but not for the sake of being productive, but for the sake of having the recognition from FE Inferior that they're smarter than that other person. That's a great way to manipulate an INTP into actually getting off their duff and doing something productive for once. But they can be super mega productive and super diligent. The problem is that they get stuck in that rut with their SI child, and because they're super comfortable, and because of anti-critic, and they just don't know what they don't want to want things because they believe that they're going to want the wrong thing because they see everyone else in the world is wanting the wrong thing. So why should they want things? Let's just stick to the familiar where it's safe. That's basically the INTP outlook of that. It's like when INTPs are offered, because they're so brilliant, they get like honorary degrees or big time credentials offered to them, scholarships, whatever. And they don't even go for it because, again, they're stuck in the familiar. They don't want it. Does anyone really actually value this? Everyone else in the world is stupid and they have credentials and I'm smarter than those people. So why would I want to be just like them and have credentials when I already believe that they're idiots and I can prove that they're idiots? Why does this matter to me? And they just become indifferent to that, and then they end up staying stuck in their rut. And it's like, okay, great. Well, even so, those things could still open doors for you, and maybe you should at least be seeking growth and change. And if you have to deal with suffering and something outside your comfort zone, it's still like better for you because you'll get like growth and self-improvement. I mean, please, that'd be nice. FI Demon. Never ever ask an INTP how they feel ever for any reason. That is retarded and bad. And never accuse of an INTP of never having feelings either, because they're like, well, I have feelings because I have FE inferior and I'm a very caring individual. But caring about themselves, not necessarily, something that they have to do. Which, by the way, before I forget, let's switch back to SE Trickster here. SE Trickster is very unaware of the physical environment. INTPs drop things all the time. They even get into car accidents at times, usually when they're first starting out, but as they get more experience in driving, they're super, super good at driving. But SE Trickster just is not aware of the experiences other people are having. They are not aware of the physical environment. This is why INTPs usually have absolutely terrible fashion sense. It's like literally plain Yoplait yogurt. I remember my mentor, RP Morial, making fun of his friend who was an INTP and telling him that he was literally vanilla yogurt. Like the most vanilla of the vanilla. And if I was going to nickname an INTP, I'd definitely call him vanilla or Yoplait as well. That's a great label for them, because it's like, oh, I just like the plain yogurt, or I just like the plain chips. I don't need all this other stuff. And it's like, come on, live a little, branch out for once. Let's get out of the familiar. SE Trickster kind of helps keep them in the familiar because they're just not aware of the physical environment in that way, unless it's directly impacting them and hitting them in the face, which is SI Child, where they're forced to adapt because it's a bad experience or a place of uncomfort that they themselves are dealing with personally. Yeah. Anyway, back to FI Demon. So FI Demon, it turns into the ISFP superego. So what that looks like, the INTP just goes in full-on super rage mode, like Super Saiyan. And I'm not talking like Goku rage, I'm talking Vegeta rage. Absolute, massive Vegeta Super Saiyan rage, where they'll literally pick up a hammer and start throwing it in your skull, basically, because they'll look for anything around them and they will just start bashing the crap out of you. And they're willing to go they'll go that far when they're in their demon mode. No, you can't say that, Chase, because I have my FE inferior and I'm a very caring individual. That's not true. I don't want to just take a hammer and bash people's heads with it. Well, I mean, if those people are someone you've been loyal to for 30 years and you've been doing your best to be supportive and they continue to treat you like a doormat over and over and over and accuse you of being unloyal to them or misloyal or disloyal to them, even though you have all the proof in the world with your TI hero, even your TE nemesis, other people would side with you that you are loyal to that person, it's like, well, what the hell? If I'm going to do the time, I may as well do the crime. There is an INTP friend of mine that I knew. His wife, she was an INJ. I think she's either an INFJ or an INTJ. I'm not sure. I didn't have that much exposure to her, but she was definitely an INJ. And she got super paranoid and was accusing him of cheating accusing him of cheating on her all the time. All the time. He got so sick of it. Do you know what he did? He cheated on her. Self-fulfilling prophecy. Stop doing it, people. It's dumb. But yeah, he cheated on her. And that led to a divorce. Him divorcing her because this other woman was way more respectful than she was, and she didn't really accuse him of cheating on other women, so he just decided to stay with her instead. And she lost out on an INTP, and she didn't have a job. She didn't even know how to drive. This INTP handled all of that for her. And this INTP was making like over $200,000 a year, and she ended up getting nothing. Not even alimony, because alimony wasn't even available in that state. They didn't have children, so it's like, okay, again, if I'm going to do the time, I may as well do the crime. INTPs are all about that. If you accuse them of something that they've never done, they will take it very personally. And it's like, well, why the hell do I even bother being loyal to you? Why do I even bother caring about you? Why do I even bother trying to love you when you're just going to consistently disrespect me in this way? Okay, well, I'm just going to burn the house that I just built for you. Burn it all. And that's what the ISFP is going to do. It's like, I built this amazing art for you, this amazing life for you, but you don't even appreciate it, so I'm just going to burn it to the ground. Screw you. Bye-bye. I'll find somebody else that will appreciate what I do. So, that's basically what an INTP looks like on paper. Now, here's how to have a good relationship with them. Always ask an INTP what they think. Always listen to what they think, even if you think they're wrong. Even if you think you already know. You always give TI Hero its day in court. Disrespecting TI Hero will just cause them to not care about you and be indifferent to you and just be apathetic. If you think you're smarter than the INTP, you're wrong. Let's face it, you're just wrong. So don't. And well, I'm smarter than him in these ways, and like, okay, yeah, maybe if you're talking about SE ways, mechanical awareness, fine, but you still have to give TI Hero its day in court. Do not disrespect an INTP that way. Always listen to their warnings. They're like, hey, don't do that, or this will happen. Always listen to them. They're like, yeah, it may seem like they're just pulling it out of their ass or randomly out of the ether or whatever, but that doesn't matter. Like, an INTP knows what they're doing, and if they've experienced something before, they can use their prescience in any parent and predict what's going to happen. Listen to those warnings if they're going to warn you, because it's part of how they show love for you. It's part of how, because they're trying to protect you. They're trying to protect your future and protect the future of your family. That's how they work, or your company, or whatever social situation that you're in. Always seek to make the INTP comfortable. Unless they're lazy and unmotivated, then you need to make them as uncomfortable as possible. And that is what makes them motivated to actually get stuff done. You never ask an INTP what they want to do. You only tell an INTP what they should do, and you dictate to them what they should do. And you better have reasons to back up. Why? Because TI Hero will challenge you. Okay, well, why? Why do you think, because they're already assuming that you're stupid because of TE Nemesis, why do you think I should do this? I think that you overvalue that or whatever. They'll make these weird reasons, but you have to always make sure you have evidence and reasons to back up why they should be doing something. And if you have enough evidence, the INTP will be like, okay, yeah, sure, that's fine. FE Inferior, always tell the INTP that you appreciate them, that you are happy for everything that they do for you, that they are caring. If you're not telling them that you appreciate them, that's abuse, basically, to an INTP. That's you treating them like a doormat. I don't care how you feel about that. I don't care what you think about that. Not listening to this means like you're basically choosing to be ignorant by not listening to this. You have to always show them appreciation. Say the words, I feel good about you because you do this for me. Thank you for being so caring. Make comments about how caring they are, how supportive they are, how well they do keeping the place clean or working in the kitchen or cooking, and always show appreciation. Otherwise, they will start to get bitter, and that FI demon will come out and start to burn down your life. And that's just how it works. Do not engage the demon. You want to make the FE Inferior know that you appreciate them. TE Nemesis, Be careful when you share your thoughts, and make sure that you've spent a lot of time thinking about your thoughts. If you're just going to randomly blurt out your thoughts, TE Nemesis will get engaged, and then it's just like, oh, more proof that you're dumb. I'm going to keep you in the stupid zone and be apathetic towards you and not really respect your thinking. Make sure you have all of the evidence in the world to back up your thinking when you make any claim around an INTP. Now that may make them seem to like be arrogant or prideful. I mean it's TI Hero, come on. But at the same time, you have to realize that the INTP only really cares about truth. And yeah, the INTP wants to be right at all times. That's very normal for them. But even an INTP, if they're actually wrong, they will admit it and they will take responsibility for their actions. And they'll feel really guilty about it and be super apologetic about it. So just make sure that if you're going to share your thoughts, that you've spent a lot of time on it and a lot of research, and you have the evidence and the facts to back up what you're saying. And then it'll be no problem. NI critic, remember, never ask an INTP what they want. Always make it about what they should do. Obligate them, dutify them, dictate to them. Don't let them just do what they want. If you let an INTP do what they want, like, bad things are going to happen. Be very, very careful about that. So just make it about what they should do, not about what they want to do. SE Trickster, please do your best to make sure that you augment your fashion knowledge on their behalf. Tell them what they should be wearing to look good for social situations, and make sure that they have that. And they will whine and complain. Good luck trying to put a suit on an INTP in a lot of cases. A lot of them hate it. But some of them that are really professional and are making six figures, okay, yeah, sure, they kind of understand because they have that experience in their SI child. But for those that don't, make sure you tell them that is their solemn duty, and that in order for them to be honorable, they should be wearing a suit to this particular formal event, etc. And then not be walking around with, a Dragon Ball Z shirt on or a Star Wars shirt on everywhere they go. Come on, dress up, wear a button-up shirt, look normal. You know what I mean? So they really need help in this area. So it's not a bad thing to help your INTP dress and dress properly. Dress for success. They really need it, and it is necessary. Also realize it's important that you allow them to develop routines. Don't expect them to, if you have routines, to be paying any attention to your routine or your way of doing things. That's not how they work. They're not even aware of that. They're never aware of what you are doing. And that's why, unless you have to be talking to them directly and you have to be making eye contact with them to engage with them, otherwise they're going to be off in la la land, not paying any attention to that because they're just not aware. And you're trying to get their attention, but they can't hear you because SE Trickster is not aware of what you're doing. It's not aware of the sound coming out of your mouth unless you're looking directly at them face to face, engaging with them directly, hitting their SI child, right? That's how they work. And obviously for the FI demon, make the inferior happy. You won't deal with FI demon. So, if you found this video to be helpful or educational, please leave a like and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments about INTPs, please leave it in the comment section. Also, if you guys have any fond memories of INTPs and their fashion issues, please post some photos or some anecdotes about that. I find that very entertaining sometimes. I also have an issue with that myself because I have SE Demon. So I obviously struggled. You're talking to a guy who wore sweatpants every day when he went to school when he was a little kid and didn't tie his shoes either. So I get it. I'm just as bad, if not worse, than my fellow NTPs. But nowadays, since I've grown up, I have a lot of experience in my SI inferior, and I've tried to maintain a better sense of fashion. But I mean, come on, you basically see me on these videos wearing the same thing, and that's because I have many of the same shirt, because once I find something familiar, I'll stick with it, right? So I also need to have assistance in that area to try to figure out optimal fashion tips, etc. But it is a struggle INTPs have, or NTPs in general. So anyway, if you got any funny situations, some cool photos or funny stories, by all means, share them in the comment section. I'd love to read those. So anyway, tomorrow is the final video of the 16 personality series, where we will be discussing the INFP, also known as the Dreamer. So I'll see you then. Have a good night.